Welcome to Thoughtful Planning, the place where real conversation, expert insight, and a touch of humor meet to turn our end-of-life uncertainties into self-assurance. I'm your co-host Santiago, a history buff and a big kid at heart.
And I'm Honey, your guide through the intricate dance of planning with care and a whole lot of warmth. Every week, we're here to turn those intimidating "are we ready" moments into confident "everything is under control" moments. Today's journey is one you won't want to miss. Hello, and welcome to the Thoughtful Planning Podcast. I wanted to share a content warning for the listeners. This episode contains discussion about end-of-life photography, including a sensitive account of a stillbirth photo session. The content may be emotionally challenging for some listeners. Hi, welcome to Thoughtful Planning. I'm Honey.
And I'm Santiago.
I learned about today's guest from a Facebook post that someone shared. The Facebook post was about a photographer who shared a story and amazing photos of a photo session of a mom who's battling cancer and her two daughters. The story caught the attention of so many that our guest has been interviewed on television and other podcasts, and in a short time has also taken the first steps to start a foundation.
Yeah, so when Honey told me about the post and I looked at it, I was amazed, and I never really thought about how a photo session was such an incredible part of end-of-life planning. For our listeners today, here's our essential question. How important is it for you to capture life events using a professional photographer?
Great question, babe. Our guest owns rose-colored lens Poetic Imagery and lives in Oklahoma. And she offers a variety of photo sessions across the United States to include elopements, weddings, family lifestyle, newborn, birth, portraits, boudoir, fantasy, milestones, and end-of-life sessions. Kelly Brown, thank you for joining us today. Would you please tell us? Yeah. Would you please tell us about yourself and how you got started in the photography business?
Sure. It was something that I picked up because I wanted to be able to pay for school. So when I picked it up, I wasn't really expecting to. I've always loved art and like creating things. I've always loved photography. Who doesn't love to get pictures done and stuff? But it wasn't something that I thought I was going to be like super passionate about. And then I just started doing different things. I dipped my toes in all of the different facets of photography world, and I thought, oh my god, I love this. And yeah, now I don't know if I'm gonna go to school for what I originally planned. Now I think I might go for business because that might be more helpful with the nonprofit coming up. So
Awesome.
Yeah, threw off the whole trajectory of my life that I had planned.
Today, like I told you earlier, I'm a teacher, and we did an analogy today about a compass and the different ways that you can go in life and how we should talk to our kids about that. And just what you said, sometimes you look at your compass and it's pointing in a different direction for you. So I think that's amazing. And so when Honey showed me the pictures of the mother and daughters, as a cancer survivor myself, I was like, holy smokes, this is so cool. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got started with taking what could be end-of-life photos for people?
Yes, I think the first one that I ever did was actually for an animal. They were having to put their senior dog down. And so we did pup cups and we went to the park and things like that. And I was a ball bag the whole time. And they didn't get put down the same day, but shortly afterwards they did. And then after that, I just sort of didn't think about it anymore because it was really sad and depressing. And I was just like, I'm glad that I did that. I'm not going to tell people about it because I don't want people to ask me to do that all the time. And then I started wanting to get into birth photography. And there was a mom who had messaged me and they were having a fertility journey. And she reached out to me to ask me if I would be interested in following that journey with her and being her birth photographer. And I was thrilled because I still haven't gotten to do like a traditional birth photography. So hopefully that's coming soon. But I was just really excited about being able to do that. And we spoke for about a year on and off, and she would update me. It was a fertility journey, so it was up and down, and she would have positive tests, and then it ended up not staying. And then there was a test that was positive and it stayed. And then she got to have a baby shower and she was planning, and things were going really well. And we set an appointment to discuss everything for details, like what type of shot she was comfortable with and what her birth plan was, all those types of things. And then I just didn't hear from her again. And so I left it alone because I didn't know if something happened or maybe she just changed her mind, and that's totally fine too. And then her friend reached out to me and asked me if I still wanted to do it. And I said yes. And I was like, yeah, these are all the details that we've discussed so far, all that good stuff. And then she was like, he's going to be born tonight. Would you still be interested in that? And I was like, absolutely. And she was like, I just want to warn you, it's going to be a stillbirth. And I was like, oh, okay, okay. I'm not going to say no. I don't think I've never been through that, but I was just like, how could I not do this? And so I, like I said, I'm a very emotional person. And so I was just like, how am I going to do this? What does this look like to be professional in a setting like this? And I'm going to cry the whole time. How do you deal with that? And is that okay? And would they be upset or angry? Like, why are you crying? This isn't even happening to you. I don't know. You have all of these thoughts. And then it went from that to just panic. They called me at 3 a.m. So it's 3 a.m. It's dark. This hospital lighting is atrocious. I have to completely trust myself and my knowledge and how to work this camera and make sure I don't mess this up because I can't redo these. These are going to be the only moments that she has with her son. And it's my responsibility to make sure that they're documented well. And so it was a lot of pressure. And she had messaged me at 8 o'clock at night. And so there wasn't a lot of time. I was just from 8 to 3 a.m. was just panicked, like trying to make sure everything is ready and prepared and packed and trying to prep myself. And I really had no idea what I was going into. And I just walked in, and it was chaotic and devastating and beautiful. It's strange to say that, I think, for other people who haven't been through it or haven't done something like that, to say that, but it really is very intimate and just so beautifully human to be in there in one of the most like earth-shattering moments of someone else's life and be able to give them something that no one else can give them. And I felt very intrusive for lots of it, but she was trying to grapple with I didn't know, I didn't know anything, how psychologically she was going to be going through all of these different sort of phases. And I had no idea. And she had just given birth to him. So everything was very fresh, and her trying to come to terms with, oh, look at him. He's beautiful. He has your nose. Look at his little toes, all of the little things. And then she would have a moment where realization of he's not coming home with me, and then would switch back and everybody was happy talking about how tall he is and how much he looks like his brother. And then it would just go back, and little things like he would be cold or he doesn't look comfortable and different things. And I just wish I would have known that. It was really difficult to watch, and it was really difficult to be a part of, but it was also just, I didn't have to think at all. I just reacted. I was just being human. I feel like I just did everything like anybody else would do. I feel like I went viral And it was like undeserving because I feel like I just did something very normal, very human. And it's really cool that thousands of people think I'm really nice though. But I just feel you would do this if you had the same skill set or the same equipment. And I don't
Mhm.
know. It was crazy. And I got all the photos back to her. And but if you don't, then they change very quickly. So the photos that I got are going to be like the best he's ever looked. And it goes very quickly. And so I got them edited and sent back before she left the hospital so that they had those photos. And the reaction that I got from her and her friends and her family was just something that I can't even put into words. It's amazing. And I thought, oh my God, I can't. At first, I was going to because I didn't know how to share that with someone. But she really was encouraging me, like, you need to post these, you need to share these. I want everyone to know that you took these for me. I want everyone to know, like, you can give this to them. This doesn't need to be a secret. And so I ended up making a post with appropriate photos for everyone to be able to see. So if you go back far enough on my Facebook page, you could probably find them. But yeah, that's how I got started in it. And from there, it just traveled word of mouth. And then anytime I saw someone losing someone, I just felt so called to reach out and say, hey, do you want photos? Like, I can make time for this. I have the skills for this. I see you need help. And some of them aren't interested for several reasons. Maybe the state in which their loved one is. That's a big one. If they're hooked up to different machines and things, then it's not something that they're interested in having photographed, and that's totally fine. Or some of them are just not comfortable with that, and that's also totally fine. But most of them do want them, and they all say the same thing. I didn't even think about that. I didn't even realize that was something we could do, and I'm so glad that you said something. And being able to see how impactful that is for their mental health, and not necessarily how easy the transition becomes because you have that in your toolkit necessarily, but I don't think death is an easy transition no matter what you do. But I do think that it definitely helps mental health wise with the transition and accepting and being able to hold on to something tangible of a loved one. So that's how it happened.
Mhm.
Well,
Wow.
yeah, it was a powerful story. And not saying I got something flew in my eye there for a second.
Me
But
too. Me too.
you said something that I wrote down. You said that, you know, not everybody can do that, and you're right. You did it. You were a part of that, and it's incredible that they invited you in. They trusted you, and they put that trust, and you
Yeah.
didn't let them down. And you you put that you put that facade up, your professional facade, and you
Mhm.
brought. I'm sure you were crying when you were taking the pictures, but
I was sobbing.
yeah, but that's not a bad thing. That just and the fact that you gave them a gift that they're going to cherish for the rest of their lives, and that's freaking amazing.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was really hard. I and none of them are easy. Since I've done more and more, I don't become cold or, oh, I've done this before. Like every single time I am just blubbering mess, but every single time they're all able to look me in my eyes and they have all said, thank you so much for crying with me. Thank you for grieving with me. And I didn't know that was a good thing. I was always and still am. I don't know how to turn that off, but I still do get very embarrassed and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to turn that off. I don't know how to stop doing that. But they're like, they're always so thankful and grateful. And so thank
But
God for that.
empathy is a good thing, where
Mhm.
Yeah.
you feel what they're feeling and you're showing them, and maybe in a way you're telling them it's okay also to grieve yourself in front of other folks. And
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing.
Me too. So, with the photo session that I referenced in the beginning of the podcast about the mom and the two daughters, I had read that you offered them access to the client closet. Would you
Mhm.
share with the audience what is the client closet?
So, if there's any other photographers listening, I'm sure they probably understand a little bit. So, I basically build like a closet that has varying styles and sizes and things like that so that when someone has a session with me, they don't have to worry about buying new outfits or anything like that. And I have a lot of pieces. They actually are very expensive, but there are brands out there that make clothing specifically for photography client closets and they're adjustable. And so I have a lot of outfits that vary in adjusting sizes from extra small to extra large. And so I have a lot of those. And then I have like baby outfits and different things. I have twin toddlers, so it helps a little bit because anything super cute, I'm like, I'll just put it in the client closet. Yeah, I just have different outfits. That way, I have things that are already styled together and they complement each other, especially when you have something very last minute. Death is not something that gives you a really good heads up and make sure you have lots of time to prepare and buy a dress for photos and things like that, especially for instances like that. I never appreciated my client closet more than when I had that situation. Yeah. But yeah, that's all it is. I just spend a lot of money on clothes that I don't wear.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, and I know that especially when you're going through like cancer, like I did and like your client did, sometimes your body acts differently. Lose some weight, or you gain some weight, or you're just not
Mhm.
yourself. And that I'm sure that they're very thankful that you have a closet client or
Yeah.
client closet. There we go.
Yes.
You also mentioned that you do hair and makeup. I've never heard of a photographer that has a closet for you to go through and then will do your
Yeah.
hair and makeup. So, what made you
Well,
decide to offer all of this?
so I actually that's what I did before photography was doing wedding hairstyling and makeup. And so I did that for about 7 years. And initially I stopped because I was getting burnt out really bad and I just did not enjoy it anymore. But then I have all this experience. I know I had a lot of photography friends. When you work in that world, you they tell you what they need from you for the photos to look good. And so I had all of this knowledge already about I know what's going to photograph well. Why not offer that? Why not give that to myself? So
Mhm.
I just at first I only did it for because a lot of my clients when I first started, they were past clients of makeup and they would be like, "Can you do my makeup too?" And I would only do it for the ones who asked, but then I just it made more sense for me to be like, if you want this, I can do this too. Just obviously not for every photographing scenario am I going to be capable of doing hair and makeup for everybody, but when it works. And I don't know, I think it's just easy to be able to book one person and come to one place and get everything done. And I don't know, I just thought it would be easy.
But I mean, that makes
Yeah.
sense too, because you know
Mhm.
about lighting and how things look in pictures. It just makes
Yeah.
all the sense in the world.
Yep. So, yeah, whoever gets you to be their photographer.
They're darn lucky.
Yes.
So,
Oh, that's really sweet of you to say. Thank you.
I was curious to know too, when you do the hair and the makeup and, you know, I'm assuming you have wardrobe changes too. Do you let them change out some clothes? And I'm wondering, like, how long does all that take? Like a whole day, a whole afternoon?
It is depending on what they're doing. Yeah, it's pretty time consuming. Hair and makeup is at least an hour, depending on what we're going to do. And then I bring out like what is it, a rack with all of the things that I've pre picked for to go with like the style of whatever we're doing so that they can try things on and see how they feel unless they've seen like a photo that I said, this is for my client closet. And then they say, I want that one. But otherwise, they get to have a little fashion show. And sometimes that can take an hour and a half to do all of the prep before we actually take the photos. And then I don't know, I'm really terrible about if I go over time, I'm just like, it's fine. I, I'm trying to be better about valuing my own time, but
Right.
we'll get there. We'll worry about that as we go along.
Yeah,
yeah.
for
But
sure.
yeah, it is a time consuming thing. Sometimes it can take, a full afternoon So
Wow.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm sure that could take a long time, and then you have
Hmm.
to value your own time.
Definitely.
So,
Yes.
so you mentioned, I forget where, I think Honey told me that the girls were off picking flowers and that you recorded some videos that the mom wanted to give to her daughters. How did you
Yes.
do that? Did you do that on her phone or did you use another device and edit and then send the film to her or the videos to her? How'd
So
all
I
that
actually kept the videos, and they're to be used in the off chance that she doesn't make it to their wedding day. So when that happens, or if that happens, then I will go back and get the videos and edit them and make a whole thing for them to have.
Mm. That's pretty
So
cool.
wow. That,
yeah, I
that
have not looked at them since I've taken them because ugh,
Mhm. Yeah.
it's a lot to it's heavy.
Mhm.
It's heavy to do. But if I have to, I have them. And even if she does make it to their wedding day, I will have them for her.
I mean,
Mhm.
what
Um,
an amazing gift if she, our business name's Awful Planning, her to think about that and take the time to do that just in case she doesn't make it
yeah.
is that's
I asked the girls, I was like,
wow.
can you guys go pick some flowers? Like, you guys should take some of these flowers and dry them and keep them as a little keepsake or something. I think that would be really sweet. And they were like, okay. And they walked off. And then I was like, would you mind talking to me for a little bit? I think if you are up for it, I think a video would be really nice.
Mhm.
And she was like, oh my God. And she started crying. And I was
Oh.
like, oh no, I'm so sorry. And she was like, no, this is a wonderful idea. And she was like, I was thinking about doing one for their wedding days. And I was like, perfect. Let's do this then. And we did.
That's cool.
Wow.
So
I have a question in terms of I read that you have a foundation that you've just started or you're thinking about it, and I think it's called Rose Colored Lens Foundation. Will you tell us
it
about
will be, hopefully.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just thought if I have a, a platform, no matter how fleeting it may be, I just feel like this would be the right time to try to do something with that. If I'm going to do something with this, I don't want it to just be like, oh, I got to be interviewed a few times. That was cool. Like I want to use what time I'm being given and do my best to make the most difference that I can. And I didn't realize I I thought that the post would get some attention because I was really proud of the photos and it's a beautiful story and she deserves all of the attention Rebecca does and her daughters and their story and they're so brave for sharing it all. And so I didn't know that it was going to go viral. I had no idea and I was terrified because being viral isn't always really fun. I realized after going viral, oops, this fell out. I'm so sorry.
Mhm.
I feel like I'm just doing this 50 times and I'm trying not to, but
Mhm.
then it falls out if I don't. So I'm just going to be weird and touch my ears a lot. I realized after going viral that these photos were not normal to do and that people didn't know about stuff like this. And I had never really seen anyone take photos like this before. And that is not to say that I invented that. I'm sure there are thousands of photographers that have done this before me. But I didn't realize that these types of sessions were not heard of or not popularized. I just thought, again, I was doing something normal, and this session just might strike a chord with people because it was a touching story and it deserved to be heard. And so I was shocked at the amount of support and love that I got. Once it started going viral, I was scared that people were going to be like, this is weird. Why did you do this? Why did you share this? This is a strange thing because it is probably to some people. But if you are losing someone and you have an opportunity like that, I feel like you would have a completely different perspective over it. And unfortunately, but also luckily, most of the people who saw it were either very empathetic or they could relate really, really well with what I said and what the photos were. And it was really cool to see how many people were like, this happened to me. I wish I would have thought to do something like this. I had no idea this existed. This was really healing for me to read about and to see. Thank you for sharing this. And people tagging photographers. I had so many photographers sharing my post and saying, this is inspiring me to offer these sessions now. If anybody needs something like this, please let me know. So many reached out and asked me. I thought I couldn't do stuff like this because I was so emotional, but I read that you were also very emotional. I think maybe I will do this. Somebody had asked me recently, and maybe I will reach back out to them and say yes. And I was like, I think you're the perfect person. I think people who are like me are very much, that's where you're supposed to be. And I didn't know. I've been on podcasts now in South Africa and in Canada and different states. And I'm just like, this is crazy. And I didn't realize that globally, this was not something people do. And so I don't charge for these sessions, end of life and bereavement sessions. I just couldn't. How do you look at someone who's dying or spending their last day with their baby and be like, here's my bill, by the way? Like, I would never be able to do that. And I also don't want anyone to think I want photos like this, the only photos that I would have of this day or whatever. But I don't have the money to do that. And when you think about people like Rebecca, she's undergoing some very aggressive chemo and radiation simultaneously. And to think about what that would cost is just, I don't even want to know. People are having to have life saving surgeries and all kinds of stuff. And I don't want to add to that. But I also would like to have electricity. And my daughter wants to do competitive cheer. I don't know if you've been in that world, but it is insane how much that is. And she wants to play all the sports and take piano lessons. And the twins are younger, thank goodness, but it's inevitable that they're going to be doing the same things. And I would like to be able to live, but I also want to be able to give this to people. And I just thought maybe a nonprofit was the way to go. That way, I wouldn't have to worry about, do I have the gas or the equipment to be able to travel to whoever needs me to go there? Because obviously in this line, you can't really expect people to come to you. A lot of them can't even leave their beds. I don't know. I just thought that made the most sense for me. And so we are in the process of getting everything filed, and I'm still taking board member applications. And hopefully, if everything works out the way that I'm dreaming it will, then I'll have my first fundraisers locally, of course, during Christmas time. And then if that goes well and everything keeps a momentum going, which I hope it does, then maybe I can expand and start opening. I would like to be in every hospice center, every cancer hospital, every birthing unit, and it just be the new normal. I want everyone to be like, not necessarily relieved if something does happen and your kid all of a sudden has a week left to live. Your hospital or your nurse is going to say, by the way, here's some information on Rose Colored Lens Foundation. If you would like to get photos done while you're here, they come out and take these for you at no cost. And I want that to be everywhere. I want that to just be like, oh, thank God, I don't have to worry about something like that. And it just be normal. And it would be cool to be in Canada and South Africa too, all over. I just think it should be everywhere.
Well, we know some folks that later when we get off, I might try to get you in contact with that might be able to help you, at least guide you in the road of the nonprofits. But I think that the one that comes to mind, we had on a podcast not too long ago.
You're talking about Julie.
I
Right?
am talking about Julie, who will probably be watching this later.
Yeah. And Julie did.
Hi, Julie.
Hi, Julie. Yeah. She did make, actually, she was the one who shared the post where I read it from. And then I did see her comment. Really? I saw her comment on your nonprofit post too, that she was willing to help you, I think, or talk to you.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And I'm a part of her organization, the Pink Warrior Angels.
And I think I've actually had a call with her.
Yeah, she's a fantastic lady, and I think what she's doing is a great deal. I think what you're doing, what you're striving for, is freaking phenomenal.
Thank you.
And I the impact that you could have on someone's life, even if they're struggling with cancer, breast cancer, the change of their body, capturing the beauty in it
Yeah.
of surviving would be phenomenal.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
It sounds like then you're obviously looking maybe at some point to partner maybe with other photographers throughout actually the world, right?
Yeah. In my dreams. Yes.
a network of photographers willing to come out and
Yes. Yes,
Help.
provide
I
memories.
would be looking for a lot of different types of people. Even locally, I'm looking for different photographers. I have two licensed professional grief counselors who are volunteering to help everyone who works with me. And then also, they want to help the clients and their families and provide resources for them too. That was like the number one thing that I wanted to make sure that I had when starting this, because I think if you're going to do this, you have to have therapy. Like, it's so important. And it's a very rewarding thing, but it's also very difficult. And I wouldn't expect anyone to do any of the sessions that I've done and then walk away completely unscathed. And I just think it would be irresponsible of me to expect them to either be able to do that or be able to afford therapy on their own.
Mm-hmm.
The two that have volunteered already, I'm ecstatic because that just is everything to me. And I have those. And then obviously any fundraising events that I'm going to do, so much goes into that. Different vendors, volunteering, different venues volunteer to house me for a day so I can have an event or something. People who want to run a concession stand,
Mm-hmm.
photographers, or people who maybe are really good at editing and want to just edit photos for the photographers, or website people. There's all kinds of jobs that would go into it. So
Right.
really, if anybody feels compelled, like, you could, there's so many ways to help. There's not just photography. Donating outfits, donating, there's all sorts of things. I even thought about maybe having someone make little goodies or something, like grieving gifts, something like that to leave with the family. Yeah, I've got all kinds of ideas and stuff, but I'm still waiting for the filing to be completed. So I really need to stop getting ahead of myself. But yeah, I've got big dreams for it for sure.
That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. I tell my kiddos, my students, when you have that dream, break it down into small, manageable goals, and each step of the way, you'll eventually get to your goal. If you ever doubt yourself, stop, look back, and say, "What have I done?" And look at where you were and where you are, and just take all that in. So, with that
Yeah.
said,
Mm-hmm.
what advice do you have for folks that are not sure that this is for them, or for a family member who thinks they are? How would you talk to that family member about maybe convincing somebody that's going through their end of life preparations that this would be a good idea for them? I know that's a
It's
lot.
it's difficult because I am not the end all be all. So I don't want to be, take whatever I say with a grain of salt and let it pertain to you however it does. But I think discussing it, like just having, opening the door for conversation in the beginning, just to feel out how are they feeling. There's several reasons why people don't want to do it. And the number one that I've come across is just, I don't want to be remembered this way, which I completely understand. Obviously, I have not gone through that myself, but I am able to empathize that you maybe are much different looking than you were maybe a month ago, maybe a year ago, however the timeline is. Maybe you're in a bed and you are immobile now. Maybe you have to have different machines to breathe and to do all of these things. I understand that would be to you. This is not how I want to be remembered. And not everyone is going to get the opportunity like Rebecca did, where she got her second diagnosis and it didn't look great. And we rushed to get the photos done before she started her very aggressive treatments. She had already lost hair previously, but it had grown a little bit, and she knew that it was going to be gone and she wasn't going to feel good. And she wasn't, it's very, I've seen her since, and she is sassy as ever, and her hair is gone, but it's a very targeted treatment on her skull. And so there's a lot of swelling happening in her face and things like that. And so I'm sure that if she was going to have the opportunity now, she would have maybe a lot more resistance to do that than she did before when we actually took them. So not everyone's going to have the opportunity to catch it before it gets to that point. And I completely understand, but it does not devalue the gift that you're leaving your family. They're not seeing, oh my gosh, I can't look at these because look at how swollen her face is, or I wish she would have been able to put on a dress or do her makeup, or I hate that she doesn't have hair. They're not going to say things like that. They're going to be like, thank God I can see the wrinkles around her eyes when she's laughing. Do you remember the joke that she was telling us? Do you remember the story we were talking about? Thank God I can see all of the little crevices in her hands when we have these detail shots of all of us holding hands together. Those are the things that they're going to be able to have. And even when I edit, I I cry the whole time because when you're looking through a gallery like that, you relive everything. I can hear every laughter. I remember every joke. I know everything that was going on, and you relive it in those moments. And not only that, but if I was just to go off of a memory that I have in my own head, unfortunately, memory is very cruel. So I don't remember most of the things, but with photography, I think that's what's so beautiful about it. And then the style that I aspire to achieve is called something around storytelling or documentarian style photography. And I think that it really helps with that type of reliving and bereavement type sessions. I think it's really important for you to unfortunately have an ego death before the final death. You have to let go of the things that nobody's going to care about, but means a lot to you because of how much you have changed in such a short amount of time. And I could see that being important, but I think allowing yourself to leave that for your family is precious. It's priceless. And I think the other reason why people don't do it is every single time someone asks me to do it, they say, I'm so sorry to ask this. I know this is weird, but would you do this, or would you consider doing something like this? And if there's a photographer out there who has publicly said, I do these, you don't need to apologize for going through a very human experience, even if it's devastating. It is a very human experience. And not everybody necessarily has experience doing it, but if they're willing to do it, you don't have to apologize for doing it. And so I think a lot of people are hesitant just to ask in general. But yeah, my grandma, she thinks maternity pictures are strange. So sometimes, isn't that weird?
Well,
She's
I
always
guess
like,
it
I don't
depends on the
understand.
generation.
Yes, it is. And so a lot of that is things like that. It's just like, why would you want a picture of that? Why would you want me to be in a hospital bed and you have a photo of me like that? And a lot of it, again, is just walking them gently through an ego death, and then just allow us to love you the way you are. Allow us to remember this. So
But
I don't know if that really helps.
no, but capturing the beauty of a birth, that having been in the room twice and seeing how messy it could be, but the beauty of bringing
Yeah.
a life, I still remember the birth of my kids, and it's just, it was
Yeah.
a traumatic experience seeing my wife go through it, but at the same time,
It's probably traumatic for her too.
well, yeah, I'm just speaking for myself now. I
Yeah.
wasn't doing any of the real work, the heavy lifting, but
Yeah.
just, the memory of that. And in today's society, everybody's carrying around one of these things. I just think what you're doing is so important.
Mhm.
Thank you.
First, thank you for sharing your experience with our listeners.
Yeah.
The conversation we had was very raw at some points, which I think is a good thing. Sharing one's emotions is always, it's not a bad thing. It's not as bad as if I were to go back 20 years as a soldier thinking, oh, you can't share your emotions. It's kind
Yeah.
of,
Thank you, Kelly, so much for being our guest today and being very vulnerable and sharing your emotions and the stories that you shared. That was very,
Thank you for having me
very
and for letting me
heartfelt.
trauma dump on you.
No.
I don't know.
Will you share with our listeners how they can connect with you?
Yeah. So my website is still under construction a bit, but you should be able to find more than enough information. But it's rosecoloredlensphoto.com. And you're able to contact me on there about um, different session requests. If you want to volunteer, there's a contact tab. So you can put your information in there and you can say, hi, I'd like to volunteer, or you could say, hi, I think you're great, whatever you want to say. And then there's also a tab about the foundation that talks a little bit more about that. And so I think that has everything on there. Otherwise, you can find me on Facebook. I also have Instagram, but it's a little sad because I'm not very good at Instagram yet. But yeah, I just forget to post on there. It's a little sad. I don't get on there much, but Facebook is easy. And yeah, I don't have any stuff about the nonprofit officially, but on the website soon, I will have a way to donate directly to the nonprofit. There's a donation link on the website now, but it just goes to a GoFundMe to help with the filing costs and things like that. But soon there will be a nonprofit donation that you can make. I'll be selling merch and you'll be able to find information about different fundraising events and things like that. And there's also a board member application on there as well. So I think that's everything.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's a lot.
My brain is a lot all the time.
And you know what? It's not a bad thing. Write your stuff down and then go at it.
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of little random notes everywhere because otherwise it just falls out of my head. So,
So, for our listeners, as you think about the topic of this podcast today, I'd like you to reflect back on that essential question. How important is it for you to capture life events using a professional photographer? I know we always carry our phone with the camera on it around like it's attached to our hips, but having somebody, like Kelly, look through her lens and capture those moments, how important do you think that really is?
It's awesome, babe. Until next time, remember every chapter you write today shapes your legacy tomorrow. Thank you for joining us at Thoughtful Planning. And just like the vibrant hues of a setting sun, we're wrapping up another episode of Thoughtful Planning. Every shared story and insight is a step closer to turning uncertainty into celebrations of preparedness.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, remember that every surprise that comes our way is an opportunity to grow, adapt, and learn. Stay tuned for more stories, expert insight, and of course, a touch of wit in our next episode.
We're not just co-hosts, we're fellow travelers on this journey. For more information on additional resources, which will help you take the next step in planning, look for the link in the show notes for our membership. Join us next time for another episode of Thoughtful Planning. Until then, keep living, laughing, and loving every moment.